Hello. Welcome to Bringing Magic Back, Keeping Front End Dry, Sprinkled with Some Magic. Hi, I am Ian Carrico. There's my Twitter, Drupal username, GitHub. I'm known as Chinggis Khan on the internet. Sorry, it's not easy to spell, but no one else uses it. So there's a plus there. What do? I'm a back-end and front-end developer at 4Kitchens. I maintain the Aurora Drupal theme, the Aurora Compass extension, the Magic module. I do some work with Rule, another CSS preprocessor, and I work with Team Sass with Breakpoint and Singularity and some of the other Sass tools that they're working on. I basically describe my job. I do everything except design. I get the pretty picture and do everything from that point on. So we're going to talk about magic and the Magic module. So first of all, who's heard of the Magic module? Yes! It's awesome. We get to teach new things. For those of you who don't, everyone, it just came out. Don't worry. We just finished development on it before Portland, and I've been using it personally on sites in dev since February-ish. And a lot of the functionality comes from well, first of all, it pulls functionality from several main themes and shares the functionality they were building so it can be reused amongst any front-end theme. So the big four that it stems from is Aurora, Omega 4, Zen, and Mothership. Those, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with at least one of those. But bits and pieces of Magic were from the fact that each and every one of these themes were starting to implement back-end code. Come up over here. We're implementing back-end code that could be reused. So a good example is within Zen, there's the code where you can rebuild the theme registry on every page load. That was pushed into Magic so that you don't have to use Zen to have that feature. You can just use it on any theme that you're doing. So it began as a desire for all front-end developers to be given the tools to make their sites performant, responsive, dry, and do it all magically, as you would expect. And really, where it came from is, as a maintainer of Aurora, we were doing a lot of things that Omega 4 was doing. A lot of the moving JavaScript to the footer, various CSS preprocessing, JavaScript preprocessing, and we realized that we were both doing this independently, and we're both kind of sort of doing similar things, and we're both wasting our times when we could just work together and do it all as one, especially with tools that every single site needs. This isn't a layout builder where you can have your specific layout and how you want it. That is still within the theme layer. This is back-end code of helping your development push forward. So what does it do? Thanks. That's the best description I get. So this is what is on what it can currently do right now. It has some enhancements to CSS aggregation. You can exclude CSS and JavaScript files from being included. So you can selectively remove all of core CSS from your site with a single line of code. Hallelujah. Yeah. You can move all your JavaScript to the footer if you need so, as well as leaving all your Drupal libraries in the header, because Drupal will not function if jQuery and jQuery once and their settings are not in the header. Don't ask me why. It has some backports of Drupal 8's JavaScript handling, and we're working on making that even better, and I need to get back into all of the Drupal 8 development so that they can be pushed back better. Excluding JavaScript files, so you can rebuild theme registry on page reload, again, taken from Zen. You can also display a viewport width indicator. So one of my favorite quotes, I forget who originally said it, but it was tweeted by Brad Frost. But his idea on responsive web design is make the screen as small as you can. Wait, open it up. It looks like shit. Time for a breakpoint. So the viewport width indicator actually helps you do that. Of when your screen is very, very small, you start off and you start expanding it and get to a point where this looks like crap, and I know the exact point where this breakpoint needs to be at. The nice about the width indicator is it works in both pixels and in ems, so it just works. It's amazing. You can display an indicator with classes applied to HTML. How many people are using Moderniser right now? Bueller? Gotta use some Moderniser. Awesome. Moderniser puts classes on your HTML element to say if the browser has certain tests pass or not. So you can do things like if CSS transitions are there, if geolocation API is there, various things, and it will add classes to your HTML. And Magic will allow you to have a little indicator there of all the different the classes that are added on your HTML element, so you can tell which Moderniser tests are passing. Or if you have some other similar API, it'll do the exact same thing. And export theme settings. So with Magic, you can take all of your theme settings and export them to the info file, so that you actually have your settings in version control stored in a location, which is very helpful when you're working with a large team. It can also export theme settings to go to your settings.php file. There are benefits and negatives to both, and we'll get into that in a wee bit. So also, what will it do? More things. Yeah. So at DrupalCon Portland, we had a BOF where Morton of Mothership, John Albin of Zen, Snam Richard, and I of Aurora, and we talked with Fubi of Omega 4 beforehand, as well as a bunch of other front-end developers and themers, all came together and talked about other things that those individual themes are doing that need to be pulled into a reusable platform. One is Drush integration. So this is something else that we're going to be pulling from Omega. We're going, and I'm actually started developing this yesterday. We're going to get it set up to where you can create a sub-theme with a single Drush line of code. So Omega has something similar like this set up already, where you can quickly create a sub-theme of Omega and set any other settings that you need, and it will create it, put it in the themes folder, enable it if you need to. We're going to do something similar and create an API for sub-themes to use to change your expected behavior. So currently, most themes have their starter kit folder, and we'll have the default be something like that, where it'll just pull the starter kit, create the sub-theme from that. Aurora does something different of we use a Compass extension. So we'll write it so that it'll run the Compass extension for you to create your sub-theme and all the bits and pieces that you need. So again, I'm started working on that yesterday. Live reload integration. For those of you who use live reload, first of all, who's familiar with live reload? Yeah, I'm learning so much today. So live reload allows you to be working on your site, have the page open in your browser, save a new CSS or Sass file or what have you, and then when live reload realizes that one of those assets has changed, it will automatically pull that asset into your browser without having to refresh it. So you can be sitting there looking at your browser and just, it will make the changes happen as you're looking at it. So this is really helpful in when you're theming something, an element that is 2/3 of the way down the page within 2 field sets and you have it open, you don't have to refresh the page and go back down and open those field sets. It just works. Grunt.js currently has some great live reload integration that is built into Aurora, and we're going to make it so that you can automatically turn on the live reload on your browser so that as soon as it's on the server, it'll be on and you have access to it with a little click of a session. Yes?
Is that how it's built?
Live reload, yes.
And is it a plugin, a Firefox plugin? Or?
So the question is kind of what it is. There's Live Reload itself is an open source project. There is an app that you can download for your Mac that will make it easier to run. But as I said, Grunt.js is a JavaScript framework. There is a plugin for that will run a live reload server on whatever you're developing on, and it will connect to the front end with a port and a JavaScript file to give you the files that you need. And it really is quite amazing. It was hard to use when you could only have it on your local machine with the app, but as soon as it's able to put on a server and you just turn it on, it makes everything so much easier. Automatic TPL file name output. This was recommended by Morton, where being able to have turn on a little development setting that will add a little comment on your front end at the end of every TPL file that will tell you which TPL file you're actually looking at and where it is. For those of us who spend hours trying to figure out where that bloody template file is for that run random field element or whatever, it'll allow you to find out exactly where it is. And I have not looked at that yet. Again, this mothership, I think, has something similar. So we're going to start looking into pulling that in as well. Setting every page to true in settings. So you can turn on your JavaScript to just come on every page. So you can have some better aggregation. Something simple that will hopefully make your aggregation better, and provided JavaScript's written correctly, will work very well. As well as some more intelligent CSS and JavaScript removal. We have some work on making that faster, better caching system, and all that jazz. So I think the biggest question is, why should you use magic? And why this is important. And the short version is performance. Both, well, I guess, the JavaScript handling especially, and a lot of the development tools that we provide will help make your site go faster. It's not necessarily like this is a one-click fix. However, moving JavaScript to the footer is always preferred, as it will help your page time run a little faster because it's not going to stop and wait for that element to load, which is very helpful if you're trying to get a very performant site. Other reasons, just to help development. Half the tools within the Magic module are to be for a themer, to theme better, faster, easier, stronger, harder, and other Daft Punk references. It gives you the tools to make the site how you want it to be. You can quickly remove parts of core that are frustrating, making your theme how you designed it, not how the developers who wrote Drupal core CSS however many millennia ago, or several years, same thing, wanted it to be. And it was developed by front-end people who had been theming over and over again and wanted these things and just trying to do them themselves, and them all coming together to build it. Also, to enhance the open sourceness of Drupal. As I said, this entire project stems from all of these base themes and all of the weird code that they wrote to do what they needed their theme to do. So a lot of the moving your JavaScript to the footer originally started in Omega 4, where we realized that we need to move. It's more performant to put JavaScript to the footer, so Fubi spent a lot of time in pulling all this code and pushing it down. And at the same time, Aurora did something similar. However, now that we're doing this all together, this is doing what open source was made to do. We're trying to take all these minds and put them together into one project to make everything be a little better. So what about this Aurora theme? Good questions. As I said at the beginning, I maintain the Aurora theme. I highly suggest you use it. This is not an Aurora theme presentation, however. It's about Magic module. However, Aurora was rebuilt for version 3 to use Magic. And we took out every single bit of code that was reusable and should be used by other themes and put it into Magic. So currently now, Aurora just gives you HTML5 templates and a few minor tools to help you with development. So for example, you can type in a typekit ID and it will print out the right typekit script. And absolutely nothing more. And I bring it up because it was Aurora 3 and Magic were written concurrently. And we made sure that they work very, very well together, and that there's no issues between the two. So it's what you need and absolutely nothing more. Really is. We make it just the things that need to be rewritten, and that's it. What about your theme? So Magic is absolutely 100%, 98.9% compatible with any other theme. Its purpose is to be reusable and easily implemented. It stemmed from wanting these tools to be available to everyone, whether you're writing your custom theme, whether you're using Zen, Omega, Mothership, or any other base theme out there. It's not reliant on any code. In fact, just today I had a issue on the issue queue from the maintainer of Observer Foundation, who asked what he has to do to make his theme able to use Magic, to which the answer is really nothing. You just enable Magic. There is a little bit of testing that should be done, no matter what you're doing, because there are things, for example, I think this might be one of my slides. Nope. For example, I need to do some work on the Zen theme to, when Magic is enabled, to remove the rebuild theme settings from Zen, because that overlaps with the functionality. There are a few things like that in Omega 4 and Zen currently that we're working on how to best remove them while still giving the functionality to people who are using it right now. But this is, there's nothing inherently part of Magic that will ruin or hurt your theme, or that your theme necessarily needs to do to be compatible with it. And also, if you have a base theme or something that you're doing that you are having some back-end work that maybe can be reused by Magic and might be helpful to be putting into this module, submit a ticket. Again, every single bit of this functionality comes from other themes, or comes from other themers who said, hey, I want to do that. And the only way we can move this forward and make it more tools for people to use is if you guys come up with any ideas, always submit tickets. I love getting tickets in my issue queue. Really. So now, I'll show you module. My slides are few because I can talk till I'm blue in the face about what this actually does. But in the end, it's better to just see it. So we're going to go down. At the bottom, Magic will add a little settings box at the bottom of every single theme. We're going to go scroll down and look at it. So first of all, can everyone read that? We're good? Cool. So first of all, everything that Magic does is unique per theme. So if you're using 7 as your admin theme, and you have another theme for your front end, you have individual Magic settings for both. So that if you want to remove all core CSS from your front end theme, it will not remove it from 7. If anyone has seen 7 when you remove all core CSS, it's frightening. Don't do it. It actually almost makes your site unusable. I did a test of that at another presentation, and I could not actually undo the setting because 7 relies on core CSS so much. So when you go to your settings page, you just click your theme name. I'm using a theme called Corona right now. And it will be completely unique. And currently we have CSS enhancements, JavaScript enhancements, and development enhancements all within this. So going through our settings, first of all, you can embed media queries instead of attaching them to the link tag. So this means that instead of having your media query be within the link tag in the markup, it will put that media query within the actual CSS file, which is performance, and I forget who kind of figured this out, but it is slightly more performant to do that than not to do that. We can exclude CSS files, and we have this long bit of text on how to do that. But the basic version, by doing :core, it will remove all core CSS. Will be completely stricken. Let's say that you want to remove all core CSS, but need your system menus.css. You can add in a tilde or a squiggly do, and it will remove all core CSS except for the system menu.css. Almost like magic. Get it? No? One day that joke is going to go well in some crowd, but until that day, I'm going to keep on trying. So the nice thing about this is, again, you can, in one line, remove core CSS. Or if there's another module that's putting in CSS for whatever reason, you can add them in as well. Of just, say you don't like views. That will remove all CSS added by the views module. And again, this will work with anything. JavaScript enhancements. So first of all, we can move all JavaScript to the footer. If we do this, I would also recommend keeping libraries in head. Drupal has some weird issue that if you put jQuery in the footer, it freaks out. I'm not, again, entirely certain why. However, this will save your site from breaking. So when you put an issue in my issue queue saying, I moved all JavaScript to the footer, and Drupal freaked out, and I respond, did you keep the libraries in the head? The answer should be yes, and then we will continue down the path. We also have an experimental JavaScript handling that will allow you to use some other browser options, such as async and defer. This currently is not working. Somewhere in the process of moving it from Aurora to Magic, something happens. And we're not entirely certain what. So we're working on debugging it right now. Even still, this is very much an experimental feature. And it's something just to start playing with, as this will become more common in the future of using these two browser options, but it's not something common right now. As with CSS, you have the option of excluding JavaScript files selectively. And this works the exact same way that CSS files does, where you can, for example, remove all JavaScript from the overlay module. Hate the overlay module. Just disable it. Really. But you can do this for any module that you have enabled, any JavaScript file. You can, just like CSS, remove all of overlay except overlaychild.js by adding a little tilde in front of it. And it will keep that while removing all other JavaScript files. Under development enhancements, we have the rebuild theme registry on reload. This is, it rebuilds your theme registry on reload. This is, again, taken directly from Zen, and it's most common there. We have our viewport width indicator, where you can turn on your viewport width on the browser. I'll show that in a second. And we have enable live reload. This is currently in Aurora, and I'm going to port this over to Magic because it's been requested to use it there. But it'll be the exact same thing where you can have your live reload default port or type in a custom port, and it will turn on live reload to work magically in whatever port that you want. So I'm going to disable that for now, save our configuration, and open up our front end. Now, let's see, turn these off. Everything else? Ah. So I got to remove it from my full screen view for a second. But if we look down here in the corner, which cannot be seen because the screen is small, we have our viewport width indicator that will show up on the bottom right magically. And if you click on it, it'll change from ems to pixels. So you can quickly and easily go to wherever you need to. And when it looks like poo here, you make a breakpoint at 525 542 pixels, or 3.875 ems. It will also remember if you refresh it. So if I refresh the page, it uses your local browser cache to tell you exactly where you were when you refreshed it. So these are all very, very important things. That is one of my favorite features. As you can see, my theme is not actually built. So that is the basics of what Magic does. Are there any questions on what Magic does? Oh, good. No questions? Everyone just, anyone excited about Magic and using it? Thank you. I'm just kidding. Well, here, I expected there to be more questions. What else can we talk about it? JavaScript. Quick poll of the room. Who here are themers? Back-end developers? What are we? All of the above? Just do everything? How many people do theming? OK, that makes more sense. I was like, there's no themers in the front-end talk. That is odd. So let's think. I can, I hope. This was not part of my, that's OK. Let me, that was what I was going to do next. So while this is installing Grunt on my server, because I somehow don't have that. How's that? Sites all themes. Corona. That's why you always test things. No, I do not know of a site currently that I have enabled that I can show you live reload. I will think about it while I'm showing you Aurora things. So I guess first of all, you can also take a look at the Magic page. My co-maintainer loves animated GIFs. So keeps front end dry, sprinkle with Magic. And we have the Aurora base theme. Anyone, have you used Aurora yet? No? Has anyone heard of Aurora? Good answer. Poll of room. Who uses Zen? Omega? Mothership? I don't think so. So Zen and Omega give you a bunch of stuff with your theme. The Zen has the Zen grid system. Omega has all sorts of tools that it gives you. I don't even know anymore, especially Omega 4. Aurora does the exact opposite. Aurora gives you only what you need and absolutely nothing more. So it gives you the ability of, or it gives you a bunch of HTML5 templates to replace the Drupal core templates that are not so HTML5. It gives you some, there is currently a builder within Aurora to create better layouts. It's a better version of the panels layout builder, and it will use HTML5 sections, as well as it removes the idea of a column, because the column is a lie. And it will, currently has live reload settings in it, Google Chrome frame settings in it, and I need to talk with Sam as Google Chrome frame is going away, rest in peace. And typekit integration. It also has Bower for package management and Grunt for task management. People, what's going to go? So as far as the layouts and everything, it's very, very straightforward. If you take the theme, it is, I believe Omega will go through and replaces every single core template with something else. We do not. We only replace those that are needed to be replaced. Page, HTML, some blocks templates, some views templates, things that directly will impact your site. The typekit integration is because most of our sites use typekit. Therefore, we have integration with typekit. It's a very common standard, and it's very useful. So you can, in our settings, add in your typekit ID, and it will automatically add in the asynchronous typekit JavaScript to the top of the page. The other thing it does is, since Drupal will not allow themes to have dependent modules currently, and I don't think it's going to happen in D8 either, which makes me sad. It will give you a nice little warning on the very top of the page of some of the tools that you should probably be using on your site. And there is the ability of hiding this warning by default. But things like HTML5 tools, jQuery update, because no one wants to use jQuery 1.4. No one. The Moderniser Module, which is done by our friend Chris Drupal, which will allow you to help you better theme more functionality. The Blockify module, which will allow you to change your things like your page name, tabs, messages, logo, and turn those into blocks so that you can place them wherever you want within the blocks interface, as opposed to having to change your template files. The Fences module, which removes the field wrappers around each and every field from div class, div class, div class, div class, div class, ul span, li span, field info, to something very, very simple. And you can choose whether you want it to be wrapped by a heading tag, span tags, div tag, figure tag. It gives you very much flexibility on how you want things to display. And the panels module, of course, which does panels. That is actually it. That is all Aurora really does. The Grunt integration, which is what's not working on my server right now, which is only mildly disconcerting, allows Grunt.js, which is a Node.js module, to automatically compile your Sass files, to, on deployment, turn your CSS output into a minified version, as well as minifying all of your images using ImageOptim. So minifying your SVGs, PNGs, and JPEGs to be fully optimized, which basically means you can save about 30–40% of the page of your image size just by some magical calculations and not actually affecting the display of your images. This is better than what Photoshop would export your images as. It optimizes it even further. And different in that Photoshop optimizes it to remove quality. This will not remove quality in any way, shape, or form. It will also lint your JavaScript, working on adding it to lint your CSS, all in one simple command. So you, in your theme, can run grunt watch, and it will do all of this for you magically, very magically, as well as run live reload on the server, so that all you have to do is type in down in our development enhancements, enable live reload Aurora default port, and it will push all of the live reload changes automatically to the front end, like magic. that is everything Aurora does for you, and absolutely nothing more. I prefer using it, clearly. I maintain it. But I prefer using it because I don't want to have to undo or change or go and hack a base theme's CSS that it gives me, layouts that it gives me. I want to just build my site. And before we started using Aurora at 4Kitchens, we made everything a custom theme. And we realized that we were literally redoing the same type of page template, the same type of layout. And we'd go back, pull one from an old project, and delete all the custom crap that is in there. And Aurora saves all that time. And we quickly teamed up with Snugug, or Sam Richard, to make this work 110% of what we need. Because everything that we do is very much a custom project. And this allows that. I guess the one other, I always will do small pushes during my presentations. For all of you front-end people out there, who is using Sass? Yes! Those who aren't raising your hand, check it out. There are some fantastic work that's being done. Not only is it's similar to Less, if you're familiar with that, or other CSS preprocessors. The difference with Sass that makes it, in my opinion, 1,000 times better is the community work that's gone into it. Recently, Sam Richard, actually I'm just going to do this, it's easier. Mason Wendell, Canary Mason, Scott Kellum, Sam Richard, and I, and a few other people kind of came together to create Team Sass. And they have various Compass extensions to make writing your CSS even easier than Sass would already. Things like Breakpoint, which allows you to write media queries with a single line of code and reuse them very quickly. Singularity, which is a grid framework where instead of using something like Twitter Bootstrap, where you have to add all your classes in and you're restricted to how they want their responsive site to be, Singularity allows you complete control over your grid and will print out the CSS for you and will do all your calculations for you. So you just type in, I want a grid of 4 columns, and I want this box to span 2 of those columns, and it will write out your CSS for you. You can also do asymmetrical grids. So I want a grid that is 1 column, another grid that is 4 of that 1 column, and another thing that is 2 of the first column. So you can create a 3-column layout that is different sizes, and then it will do all of the magic calculations for printing things out. It's also built to work with Breakpoint, so you can create a grid for 1 breakpoint, create a second grid for another grid breakpoint, and a third grid for a larger breakpoint. And when you go in, create a breakpoint of at 400 pixels, let's just say, and your second grid starts at 250 pixels, then it will automatically use your second grid, since it's within that breakpoint, while printing out CSS. It's kind of a weird thing to think about, but once I started using it, it was very weird. After I used it for a week and realized the power of it, it literally saves my company hours. I just had this argument on Reddit, actually. I am incredibly against frameworks. I hate Twitter Bootstrap. I think it is a horrible, horrible thing, and I'm sorry if you use it. Because it was a great bit of, it solved the need that we had where we needed to build sites quickly. We needed to get a example site for a client to see. The problem is it made us rely on this. I can now, using Sass and all of these tools by Team Sass, create a production-ready layout faster than I would have when I used Twitter Bootstrap. And I'm literally writing production code for my prototype. So I don't have to then go back in and change the prototype or move this later on. The code that I wrote on day 1 is completely custom, written faster than I would have if I used Twitter Bootstrap, and production level code. That is my favorite part. I think I'm about out of time. That's my front-end magic talking about what you should be. computer doesn't like me today. So on a related note, I have all of the slides, albeit I hate technology. This is not going to work, apparently. It hates me today. All the slides are up on my GitHub at github.com/ChinggisKhan. You can find it on my Drupal.org page on the Magic module. A lot easier to find. And it has links, some other helpful links to the Magic module page, Aurora theme, Team Sass, and the work that they've done. But yeah, are there any questions? I know that last bit is very much a dump of front-end theming thoughts. Any questions?
I've kind of a Sass question.
Yeah.
I've been using Sass for a while, but I'm very particular with loaded CSS.
Mm-hmm.
And I find when I start writing quickly in Sass,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of descendant selectors.
Yes.
I mean, it's not rendering as quickly as it could if I was being more specific. I was wondering if you had a way to get around that and still write quickly?
So the question is how to avoid bloat in your CSS and while you're writing Sass. And I guess there's two ways that we do at 4Kitchens at least. And actually one of these is Sam Richards' idea from Embassy Universal. One, don't do that. Be conscious of what you're writing. And if you, in Sass, you can quickly nest elements and it will print out your CSS correct. And if you're nesting 4 or 5 levels in, stop. Rethink what you're doing. Does it have to be that specific? And 99% of the time, you can just take it out and put it into another partial file. It's very common. You can take it out and just put it underneath if needed. And the other half is, generally speaking, this is not a rule, this is more of a guideline. All of our Sass partials are under 50 lines. And that helps bloat immensely. Again, it's not a hard and fast rule. I break this rule all the time. But it's a, once we start getting to 50 lines, is this too much? Is this too much nesting? Is this too much information in a single partial? Sam Richard takes us to the extreme of, he has literally like 100 different partials in his project. I don't quite do that, but it's a point where I need to sit down and think of what am I doing wrong if it is really this long. Any other questions? Anyone want to talk about Sass and Compass? I'm going to do a BOF tomorrow. I think that's very important. If anyone is more interested in learning about Sass and Compass and using those for your front-end theming, there will be a BOF tomorrow. I swear it. I'm excited to see all you there.
Kind of gathered consensus a little bit earlier that there's a lot of people who do kind of everything.
Yeah.
So, what's some general advice that you could give to people who might be a little scared to approach the front end side and really just dive into theming? Maybe somebody who's coming from the back end or coming from just a different area.
So the question is, since this group is a lot of those who do a little bit of everything, how to remove the fear of moving to the front end and playing with tools like this. And I guess, well, one, I'm not a front-end developer, so don't be afraid. I do mostly back-end code, which is why I do more front-end code now. Weird to think about. But all of my work on Magic and Sass and Compass makes it so it's so much easier as a back-end developer to write front-end code. And Drupal theming on the front end is weird and odd, and the renderable arrays are just confusing. And that's to a back-end developer who, apparently this was made by back-end developers, all the Drupal front-end theming. But in reality, it is very much the nice thing about front-end development is you can quickly see the results of your action. You can quickly play around with it. And especially with Live Reload and Sass and Compass, it makes everything 1,000 times easier. I have one of my coworkers at 4Kitchens is a hardcore backend. Like, this is a guy who tweaks our servers, writes weird Node.js apps, hasn't looked at front end in years, writing CSS and front end code every day now because of Sass and Compass. It really makes everything 1,000, and he likes it, which shocked all of us. because it does make it so much simpler. Any other bits of wisdom? No? No, I'm getting told from the back that there's no more questions. Okay. Well, thank you all. Yeah. If you have any other questions, feel free to tweet, ping, IRC, MessageBird, smoke signal me, or put issues in the issue queue. Great way to talk about functionality. But yeah, Dankeschön.